yatra trisargo misha Dhamna srina sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, from my respectful obeisances to you, I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth, and the primary cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abodes, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma projita kaitravotra paramo nimatsanam satam Vedyam Vasubam Atravasu Shivedam Tapa Chayanmulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parer Ishwaraha Sadyohide Avarudyate Tra Krite Bihi Sususubhistakshanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees which are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient within itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpatarur galitam phalam sukhamukad amritam dravya samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasam malayam muhur aho rasika bhuvi bhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, it has become even more tasteful. This fruit has become even more. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse number 28. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller, without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Kunti Devi knew that Krishna was neither her nephew nor an ordinary family member of her paternal house. She knew perfectly well that Krishna is the primeval Lord who lives in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. Paramatma, another name of the Paramatma feature of the Lord, is Kala, or eternal time. Eternal time is the witness of all our actions, good and bad, and thus resultant reactions are destined by Him. It is no use saying that we do not know why and for what we are suffering. We may forget the misdeed for which we may suffer at the present moment. But we must remember that Paramatma is our constant companion, and therefore He knows everything, past, present, and future. And because the Paramatma feature of Lord Krishna destines all actions and reactions, He is the supreme controller also. Without His sanction, not a blade of grass can move. The living beings are given as much freedom as they deserve, and misuse of that freedom is the cause of suffering. The devotees of the Lord do not misuse their freedom, and therefore they are good sons of the Lord. Others who misuse freedom are put into miseries destined by the eternal Kala. The Kala offers the conditioned souls both happiness and distress. It is all predestined by eternal time. As we have miseries uncalled for, so we may have happiness also without being asked for they are all predestined by Kala. No one is therefore either an enemy or friend of the Lord. Everyone is suffering and enjoying the result of his own destiny. This destiny is made by the living beings in course of social intercourse. Everyone here wants to lord it over the material nature, and thus everyone creates his own destiny upon the supervision of the Lord. He is all-pervading, and therefore He can see everyone's activities. And because the Lord has no beginning or end, He is known also as the eternal time, Kala. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So what we don't realize is that eternal time is non-different than Krishna. It's one of His energies that's completely under His control. The Paramatma feature is also non-different than Krishna. And again, it's under His control. And we living entities are also part and parcel of Krishna. We're also under His control. But we have some limited free will. And the material nature and the modes of material nature are also under His control. And they're expansions from Him. And therefore, if we understand all these things, then the only conclusion is we should surrender to Krishna and ask for His help to overcome all the illusory concepts that we may have in our mind and all the illusory arguments and conflicts that we may have through social intercourse with other people. It's all false. The only thing that's real is our relationship with Krishna. And Krishna, of course, is the supreme reality. So, Krishna is witnessing everything we do as Paramatma. He's also witnessing everything we do as eternal time. And it says here, eternal time is the witness of all our actions, good and bad. And thus, resultant reactions are destined by Him. Yeah, there's something gargling, or I don't know what it is. I don't know what. Okay. It is no use saying that we do not know why and for what we are suffering. That's an interesting point. It is no use saying that we do not know why and for what we are suffering. We may forget the misdeed for which we may suffer at this present moment, but we must remember that Paramatma is our constant companion. And therefore he knows everything past, present, and future. So, in two ways, as eternal time and also as Paramatma, the Lord knows everything that we're doing. He's the supreme controller. Without his sanction, not a blade of grass can move. Well, if we put all this together, then we see why the Hare Krishna mantra was delivered to us by Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Because it's a supplication, it's a ardent, sincere prayer to the Lord, please protect us, and so that we can cross over all the obstacles of material life and return back to you, dear Lord. If the Lord becomes our friend, then we have nothing to worry about. All problems of life will go away. Krishna consciousness is the solution to all problems. Now, who says that? Srila Prabhupada says that. And Krishna says that too. Let's see where Srila Prabhupada says that. It's an interesting quote. Ninth chapter, 6th verse. In the purport it says, the verse says, understand that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all created beings rest in me. And in the purport, it's very interesting. He said, for an ordinary person, it is almost inconceivable how the huge material creation is resting in him, meaning Krishna. But the Lord is giving an example which may help us to understand. The sky may be the biggest manifestation we can conceive. And in that sky, the wind or the air is the biggest manifestation in the cosmic world. The movement of the air influences the movements of everything. But although the wind is great, it is still situated within the sky. The wind is not beyond the sky. Similarly, all the wonderful cosmic manifestations are existing by the supreme will of God, and all of them are subordinate to that supreme will. As we generally say, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There it is, right there. So, thus, everything is moving under His will. By His will, everything is being created, everything is being maintained, and everything is being annihilated. Still, He is aloof from everything, as the sky is always aloof from the activities of the wind. Okay, so we do not realize the degree to which Krishna is controlling things. Therefore, in 6th chapter, 30th verse, it says, nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. So that should be our understanding. Controller of everything. And Prabhupada said, this is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. knowledge and evil, and they became convinced to eat that fruit, even though there was millions of other trees offering all kinds of varieties of fruit. And the devil convinced them that God was hiding a type of sense pleasure or pleasure from them. And if they ate that fruit that was forbidden to be eaten, then they would experience a greater pleasure, you see. So that allegorical story does have the kernel of truth in it. Why did we come to the material world? Because we thought we could become the competitor of Krishna and win by coming to the material world and controlling some part of material energy for our own sense enjoyment, independent of God. So these are all misconceptions, and basically they're misuse of our freedom. What is our freedom? It's only two choices we have. Either we choose to follow Krishna or we choose not to follow Krishna. That's the limit of our freedom. If we choose to follow Krishna, then there are no problems. If we choose not to follow the Krishna, then that is the cause of suffering. The devotees of the Lord do not misuse their freedom, and therefore they are the good sons of the Lord. Others who misuse freedom are put into miseries, destined by the eternal Kala. The Kala offers the conditioned souls both happiness and miseries. It is all predestined by eternal time. As we have miseries uncalled for, so we may have happiness also without being asked, for they are all predestined by Kala. No one is therefore either an enemy or friend of the Lord. Everyone is suffering and enjoying the result of his own destiny. Well, here the word destiny means what's going to happen to us based on what we're doing right now and the decisions that we're making right now. So you can't blame Krishna if we're suffering. And we can't blame Krishna for whatever goes wrong. And this is a phenomenon that's going on now. Nowadays, many people will refuse to take responsibility for the decisions that they make, and they blame others for their suffering. A very common thing today. Previously, some people would do that also, but most people understood, this is my own karma, that's why I'm suffering. And I must have done something in the past, I can't remember it, but the proof that I must have done something wrong is that I'm suffering right now. That's the way they would understand. Nowadays, they say, well, it's Trump's fault, it's Bush's fault, it's the Republicans' fault, it's, who knows, it's global warming, it's this, it's that. You know, they never want to admit someone murders his mother and father. It's their fault they mistreated me when I was younger, right? It's their fault that I killed them. How can it be their fault? Okay, they might have done some bad things to you, but you pulled the trigger. So nobody else pulled the trigger but you. So you made that decision. So this destiny is made by the living beings in course of social intercourse. So social intercourse means your interactions with other people. So in your interactions with other people, you may be convinced that you can get away with sinful activity. You may be convinced that it's okay to engage in sinful activity, that it's not a sin to be sinful. Right? So they can convince you of these things. Just like there was one devotee, he was an African-American devotee in Berkeley, and he got initiated by Bhakti Swarup Damodar. And I endorsed him for initiation because he had been serving in the temple for a long time. And his name was Murli Das. But he was not a very intelligent person. He had very little education, although he grew up in the United States. He went to elementary school, but he never really learned how to read and write properly. And he was like an unfortunate guy, but he became fortunate by being a devotee. But one day, he was alone doing something that he shouldn't have been doing in Oakland, California, which is a big African-American or black neighborhood. It's where the Black Panthers had their start. The Black Panthers were a revolutionary group that tried to overthrow the American government. They were all black people. Anyway, it's where he was born, and one day he was there. I don't know what he was doing there. He shouldn't have been there. And some black minister saw him. And after talking to him, he convinced him to throw his bead bag in the garbage can. He convinced him that the bead bag was the devil. You got to be really stupid to be convinced of that, right? But some of these black ministers, and because he speaks his language, he has that affinity to I'm black American, so they talk their own. They have their own language. It's called what's it called? It's not called Ebola. It's called something. Anyway, they have their own way of talking, right? And when they start talking like that, sometimes it's very hard to understand. The only words you can understand are the curse words that they use, but the rest of them it's a funny language, right? So anyway, Marley throws his bead bag into the garbage can, and he doesn't come back to the temple. So about a year later, I see Marley in Berkeley walking down the street. He's back to what he was before. He's a bum. He's homeless, he's a bum, he's dirty, he's eating out of garbage cans again. This is the way he was before. He went back to that. So I said, Marley, what's going on? Where are you? I haven't seen you for a year. Oh, I've been having some hard times. He said, okay, what happened? He said, I met this pastor, and he told me that my bead bag is the devil. I said, Marley, your bead bag is your connection to Krishna. I said, I know, but I threw it away. I said, well, Marley, come back to the temple. He said, no, I can't come back. So he refused to come back. And he got used to living like a bum again. But this time, because he had come once, and he had taken up, and he even got initiated, but because of his misfortune and because he was engaged in sinful activities, he couldn't come back. It was very, very sad. But here Prabhupada says, the living beings are given as much freedom as they deserve. That he deserved by your karma, right? And misuse of that freedom is the cause of suffering. Devotee wants to put the devotee in a situation where the devotee will be glorified, or wants to help the devotee overcome the last vestiges of material attachments. But in general, like 99.9%, suffering is due to misuse of our freedom and choosing to engage in sinful activities. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.
Haribol, Haribol. Haribol, Haribol.